the owner of the house tells them that he's going to pay them $500 if they can complete it in a certain amount of time. Laurel and Hardy, we're into the box set again. I enjoy these so much. This is one of the movies that I haven't seen before. I've seen it before in the past. Huge fan, lifelong fan of Laurel and Hardy. But the majority of the films I'd seen growing up were whatever was being aired on television. So there's a heck of a lot of stuff that was never aired, or if it was, I didn't see it. And most of the stuff that was aired whenever I was growing up would have been the sound movies or the feature length ones. And this is a silent short from 1928, The Finishing Touch. Of course, starring Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, along with Dorothy Coburn, Edgar Kennedy as a policeman in it. He is absolutely brilliant in this film. And Sam Lufkin as the owner of the house that they're working on in this movie. This is from the DVD in this box set. It's like a feature and related shorts. This is all like a job to do. This DVD is entitled, so it's a load of stuff that is like, their workmen and the such. This one, they're joiners, and they've been hired to build a house, to get it ready. The owner of the house tells them that he's going to pay them $500 if they can complete it in a certain amount of time, and they agree. Off he goes, leaves them to it, and they straight away, the slapstick starts. Everything they try to do goes wrong. There's a running joke throughout the better part of this movie, or this short, where Oliver is trying to carry a door into the house from outside. There's a porch area at the front of the house, and there is like a horse, a joiner's horse, which is basically, like feet and a plank across it. If you're a joiner, you do all sorts of stuff, you know what I'm talking about. So it has got like a bit of wood, like in a ramp up towards this, and then another piece of wood across from it to the porch. And there's a running joke of him trying to get this door carried across that, but every time he gets up the ramp to go across the piece of wood into the house, it keeps breaking and he keeps falling, breaking so many doors. So that pays off later in the film. Other things that happen in it is, and I don't want to go into real major detail in the things that happen in this film, because there is so much that's the beauty of Laurel and Hardy short films. The slapstick comedy comes thick and fast, and I could be standing here for 40 minutes telling you everything that happens in this movie. But there is a brilliant sequence where in the house there is nails spread out on the floor that have just been carelessly dropped. Oliver comes in, steps on them, and of course gets a whole load of them stuck under the bottom of his boot, so he's jumping about in pain, and he screams at Stanley to get this cleaned up. Stanley lifts a bucket and a shovel, and he sets the bucket down on the floor, and he goes down with the shovel and he starts scooping nails up on it, turns around, puts it into the bucket, and he turns away from the bucket to get more nails, lifts them, puts them into the bucket. And on the third time, the way he crouches down to get the nails into the shovel, he actually scoops up the bucket on the back of the shovel. So he basically turns around, stands up, turns around to put it into the bucket. The bucket is no longer there because it's stuck on the back of the shovel that he's holding. And yeah, so he's walking about, and he has his hand down at his side with the shovel on it. And of course the bucket is hanging behind him, and he's looking around trying to find where this has gone to, that of course Oliver comes in with another bucket and a fight starts. And over this bucket, because Stanley thinks Oliver stole it off him, but the whole time Stanley actually has this thing dangling behind him. Brilliant little sequence, so well done. Across the street from this house they're working on, there's a hospital, and there's a nurse complaining to the policeman, Edgar Kennedy, about the noise that Stan and Ollie is making across the street. So he comes over to try and close them down. He's like, keep the noise down. If you're going to make a noise, make it quietly, sort of a thing. So things go from bad to worse as they continue to try and build this house, keep the noise down. Things keep happening. Edgar Kennedy is constantly on their back. There's so many things I could get into here. Really, honestly, I'll completely destroy the film. I think this is so good. You actually need to see it. There's a fantastic part where Oliver is gluing a roof to try and put tiles onto it, and he is standing on a piece of wood that he has put out through a window. So basically, window frame, lump of timber sticking out. He's on a box on top of this, and he has it wedged inside the room. So this has got bad news written all over it from the word go. While he's at this, Stanley is out and he's trying to replace the bit of wood that was across from the ramp to the porch of the house, and he can't get a piece of wood long enough to do the job. So he gets a piece of wood that's about a foot short, and it's one of these things where he sets the wood down and he looks at the empty space between the two of them. He's got the wood in this hand here and there's the empty space, and he's kind of like, measuring the gap there. So he walks in, I guess here, this is the kind of space that he needs, and he gets in the piece of wood that he selects to cut, to take out. Of course, is the piece of wood that Oliver is using to hold himself up outside the window, outside the house. This sequence alone had me in stitches, where Stanley takes a handsaw and tries to saw the piece of wood. It is, honestly, I'm standing here telling you that someone with a handsaw sawing through a piece of wood is probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. Only Stan Laurel could take something like this here and turn it into absolute gold. It was absolutely hilarious the way he did it. So of course, outside the house, Edgar Kennedy, policeman, is watching Oliver up on the roof trying to glue these tiles into place, and of course Stanley cuts the piece of wood. Oliver falls, the glue falls, hits Edgar Kennedy, and then all the tiles in the roof fall off, and he ends up getting them glued from head to toe on him. Absolutely brilliant. By the end of the film, I should say, the porch, the piece of wood from the ramp onto that there, pays off by them actually successfully getting over the piece of wood, and when they do, the whole porch gives way below Oliver. So we skip forward in time slightly. The house is finished, the owner turns up, he gives them the $500, and you think, wow, happy ending for a change. So while the deal has been finished and they're about to leave, a bird flies across, lands in the chimney of the house. The chimney disintegrates below the weight of the bird. The window frames start falling out of the house, doors start falling off, and the owner of the house demands his money back. And Oliver's like, I haven't got your money. And the owner turns to Stan and he's like, I haven't got your money. And each time he's turning to either Stan or Ollie are passing the $500 between each other, trying to keep it away from him. A fight breaks out between the three of them, which eventually Edgar Kennedy, as a policeman, gets involved in it again, and the nurse actually gets involved in it from the hospital across the street. There's a sequence earlier on where she was in complaining, punched Oliver in the face and Stanley in the face and whatnot. And there's a whole part with her on it. She's absolutely great on it too. But the end of this movie is absolutely brilliant. I didn't get into any detail with the nurse really in this review, but the sequence she has in the house is absolutely hilarious. At one point she goes to lift a hammer off the floor, she bends over, and Stanley has a piece of sandpaper in his hand. He rips it in half, and she thinks she's tore her tights or her dress, and she's all embarrassed and leaves, and Stanley saves him and Ollie from a kicking from the nurse. Back to the end of the movie, fight breaks out between the owner, Stan, and Ollie. Edgar Kennedy's pulled in. He ends up getting a bucket of paint thrown over him. The nurse gets knocked into a whole massive thing of paint on the ground. The owner of the house, Stan and Ollie, are chucking rocks at each other. At the beginning of the movie, Stan and Ollie have a truck whose brakes weren't working properly. It's parked on a slope behind the house, and by this stage of the film I had completely forgotten about that. So they're chucking rocks at each other, and eventually, of course, Oliver pulls the rock out that they've wedged below the back tyre of the truck to stop it from rolling down the hill, to throw at the owner. When he pulls it out, Stanley is going for the same rock, so Stan and Ollie end up fighting over this one rock to chuck at this owner, and the truck runs backwards down the hill, demolishes the entire house. That is essentially a quarter of what happens in this film. Like I know I've been prattling on here for quite a while in this review, but as I did say earlier, slapstick moments in the Laurel and Hardy film come thick and fast, and the amount of stuff that they have in a 22 minute short film is absolutely unbelievable. This is fantastic. I can't believe I didn't see this one before, and I really do recommend you check this out ASAP.